Good morning. Okay. Good morning, everybody. And it's great again to be able to talk to you from London and talk about this morning carrying on kitchen design. Welcome to Sanjay, Chef Kark. Great to have you with us, and all the students of IIHM must remember that we live in difficult times, but these will be over soon. They're going to start easing the lockdown next week in London, gradually, as they are all over the world. And very soon, the world will open up again, as I keep saying, and the wonderful future that you all have in India. Remember, the future is bright. The future is IIHM. The future is you, the students, and living in incredible India. And there seems a magic in the very name of India. Now, last week we started kitchen design, and what we're going to talk about this morning is that kitchens are changing. In Europe, there's more technology going in, more prepared food, because unlike India, they don't have the staff. They may have the staff after the pandemic for a short time, but as we gradually move back to where we were, there will be all sorts of shortages of skills. And this will affect the design of the kitchen. Now, what I said about last week is the amount of capital expenditure. And chefs always want the Rolls Royce of kitchens, but it's not good business always to go for the Rolls Royce, because equipment changes so quickly, and when it changes so quickly, new technology comes in. And also, what's important is you might want to change it. And when you change it, when you change the equipment, obviously, it's more expenditure. And some companies will change the equipment every 5 years. So you've got to be careful how much money you spend and how much capital equipment you want to invest in. So you have to work within the budget. It's all about working within the budget. And it's not always possible to design, then consider the cost afterwards. Finance will often determine the overall design and acceptability. So it's actually cost, the finance. How much have you got available? And what we're finding, space and rents are at a premium. So therefore, kitchens, professional kitchens, are becoming smaller because we want more customers. And equipment is being designed to cater for this trend, becoming multifunctional and streamlined. Food production methods and equipment. A fast food restaurant, usually prepared convenience food, will require planning and equipping very differently than an a la carte or cook chill kitchen. So there's no clear template for designing a kitchen. It's not that easy. It depends on the menu, depends on the style, whether you're fast food, whether you're a la carte, whether you're cook chill. So you have to be very careful on what you're designing for. And I see so many mistakes when people buy equipment that they don't necessarily need. So what will be produced? You've got to say, what is the menu? What do I want to produce? And determine the following. Will sweets and pastry made on the premises? Now, lots of restaurants don't have a pastry department. They don't need a pastry department. Pastry chefs cost a lot of money to employ, and you don't always get the revenue back. Not everybody has a sweet, not everybody has a dessert. So a lot of companies say we will buy in the pastries and the sweets. There will be will there be a need for a larder or butchery or a cold production area? Again, a lot of restaurants bring in the butchery already done, meat already prepared, and they may have a cold salad area. So the kitchens are getting smaller. A lot of things are being brought in already prepared. Will you use all fresh food? Will you use chilled food? Will you use frozen food? That's what, again, lots of establishments use a lot of frozen food these days. How much will be purchased, prepared, and ready to cook and serve? This will affect storage space. How much will be purchased, prepared, and ready to cook and serve will also affect the skills level. The type, amount, and size of the equipment will depend, again, it's all about the menu. That's key. The menu dictates the restaurant design, the kitchen design. And the menu is based on the consumer product relationship, which we've done. The consumer product relationship. Big thing, more than ever, because of COVID-19, hygiene and cleaning. People want to go to restaurants to know that the kitchens are clean, the restaurants are clean, the restaurants are sanitized. And we have very stringent food hygiene acts, food safety acts in this country, and they must comply with the Safety Act. And the basic layout, the basic construction must enable space to be provided in all food handling and associated areas for equipment as well as working practices, and be easily cleaned for frequent cleaning to be carried out. And one thing you've got to ask yourself, every piece of equipment that you put in a kitchen, how is it going to be cleaned? How is it going to be maintained? When you design a kitchen, look around. How is this kitchen going to be sanitized? How is it going to be cleaned? Absolutely crucial. Design and decor. We know that the consumer product relationship is about experience. It's about lifestyle, which dictates the menu, which dictates the kitchen design. So we know there is a trend towards more attractive eating places, designer-led restaurants, and has an effect on kitchen planning and design. On trend has been that of bringing the kitchen area into view. We call this theatre kitchens. For example, where grills and griddles are in full public view and food is prepared on them to order. So we can say, like a tempura, Japanese tempura, they cook in front of you. You can see the restaurant. People in the restaurant can see the kitchen. And in future, because of the pandemic, as customers want to see the kitchen, but they want to see that they're masks. And some restaurants are even moving the kitchen into the front in full view of everyone walking by. So you walk by, so the kitchen is one side of the restaurant, and as you walk by, you see the full kitchen on display. And this is a marketing tool, it's theatre, it creates an interest, and customers like it. You as managers must always think of costs and the cost of changing something and redeveloping something. There will be continuing demand for traditional heavy-duty type of equipment found in a larger hotel and restaurant kitchens. The range of equipment available has become greater and more affordable. However, price will reflect the quality of the machine and therefore its life expectancy. And you may wish to say, well, I'm going to depreciate this equipment over 5 years. And at the end of 5 years, I'm going to replace it. Many companies look at computers and they say every 3 years, we'll change the computers. Research the leading manufacturers and choose equipment designed to cope with the change and redevelopment. So you've got to do a lot of research when buying equipment. And multi-use requirements. Lots of equipment in industry is used extensively, particularly in round-the-clock 24/7 operations, such as in hospitals, in factories where shift work takes place. The police, the armed forces, have also encouraged kitchen planners to consider the design with a view to their parcel use outside of peak times. How can we use them outside of peak times? Kitchen equipment is being made more adaptable and flexible so that whole sections can be closed down when not in use to save energy. Important to save energy. Save on heating, lighting, maintenance. Staffing during these times will be minimal, and some equipment should also provide for minimum operator effort. So automation, more robotics coming in to the kitchen, more and more technology than ever before. So in this country, we have a system of food hygiene rating, and most restaurants try to get a 5. They're called scores on the door. And kitchens must be designed so they can be easily managed, easily cleaned, access to areas under control of the chef, good visibility so you can see everything that's going on, and can be easily supervised. Large operations should work on separate workflows for reasons of ease, hygiene, and efficiency. Always remember hygiene. Always remember how you can sanitize the kitchen. And the flow of the kitchen. The flow of the kitchen is very important. Raw materials, how the raw materials flow through the kitchen. So there's no backtracking or crossover where raw is meeting cooked food because of cross-contamination. How people move around the kitchen. For example, staff working in areas of contamination. So if you're working in areas of high contamination, raw meat, you don't want them to enter into the blast chilling area where blast chilling is taking place, or where there's cooked food because of cross-contamination. And what's important is this, and I tell people constantly that chefs should be in whites. It's become fashionable to wear butcher's aprons in Europe, the blue striped butcher's aprons. They are for butchers. They're that colour so you can see who's actually preparing raw meat. They should not be used when you are cooking food with cooked food, because that is colour coding. A butcher's apron is for colour coding and should not be used. And we see it lots on television, on programs on television, where chefs are cooking with a butcher's apron. That is not acceptable. Containers, equipment, utensils. Equipment should, where possible, be separated in specific areas. So we separate, like we separate boards, different colour boards, we should have different coded equipment as well. Refuse must be kept separated and should not be passed through other areas to its storage destination. So we have to keep waste separately. Food waste, paper waste, all has to be kept separated. Now, people say to me all the time, how should a kitchen be laid out? And this is very interesting. The layout of the kitchen must focus on the working and storage area and the equipment to be employed. These areas must be designed and based on the specification of the operation. Again, what kind of operation is it? Is it fast food? Is it a la carte? Is it cook, chill, etc.? So, ideas on effective kitchen design. It's always important to ask chefs. And I know that many new builds, many architects go in and plan a kitchen. Many people plan kitchens who never worked in a kitchen, and they don't ask the chef. And that's where we get absolute disasters. Absolute disasters. I've got a question here from Sanjay. Let me. What are the 3 factors that trigger the decision of changing equipment? Well, first of all, one of the biggest decisions is energy. Energy costs, particularly if you've got old fridges, for example, that consume a lot of energy. Gas, gas stoves, moving over to induction hobs for reduced energy and reduced heat, and therefore you don't need so much ventilation. Efficiency, technology, does it work? Is it to your specification? And one other thing is your maintenance. You may be paying a lot of money out on maintenance and it may just not be worth it. You now can get some equipment and maintenance contracts that over 5 years. So sometimes it's just not worth keeping the equipment going. But number 1 is definitely energy. And the important thing, how do we save money? Equipment today has got to save energy. Thank you for that, Sanjay. Ask chefs for comment on the suitability, practicality, and layout. Always ask a chef. Seek professional advice from manufacturers. And also visit a range of kitchens with a very critical eye. Go around and look at kitchens with a very critical eye. Proper design and layout of the preparation area can make a major contribution to good food hygiene. There are certain basic rules that can be applied that not only make for easier working conditions, but help to ensure that food hygiene regulations are complied with. And create good working conditions for staff. Always create good working conditions for staff, because staff respond well to good working conditions. They take more pride in themselves, in their work and their working environment. So kitchens must be comfortable for staff. And that's why we must ask chefs. And I've seen some appalling kitchens where the conditions are just not acceptable for chefs. And then I've seen some excellent, well-designed kitchens, comfortable kitchens where the staff are very happy and the staff lay longer. The layout should be planned so that raw material foodstuffs arrive at one point. So we've got goods inwards at one point, are processed in the cooking section and then dispatched to the serving. So a clear flow. There should be a distinct progression in one direction. Backtracking of crossover materials must be avoided. So you don't want cooked food going into raw food area. It must be a continuous, easy flow. Vegetable preparation, if you're going to have vegetable preparation, and wash-up areas should be separate from actual food preparation and service areas. And staff should not hamper one another by having crossed one another's paths more than's absolutely necessary. So give people enough space, enough working space. And one of the biggest faults I find in kitchens today, and it's going to be picked up even more after the pandemic, is that there's never enough wash hand basins. Wash hand basins should be strategically sited to encourage people to wash their hands frequently, instead of washing their hands in the veg sink. That's not good enough. You've got to have enough wash hand facilities to encourage people to wash their hands. Well, what percentage of the total area should be ideally attributed to the kitchen? Well, that depends on the type of restaurant, yeah, the type of restaurant, the style of restaurant, whether it's a la carte, table d'hote, fast food, cooked chill, etc. Because some kitchens, of the space allocation, the space is something like 1/8. Some of it is 20%, because they don't need large kitchens, because a lot of it is being brought in. But it very much depends on the menu, on the staffing. Remember, it all starts from the consumer product relationship, the type of menu, whether you're going to buy food in already prepared. Yeah. And that will, what you will then work out the actual size of the kitchen. But remember, kitchens are becoming smaller. Food preparation areas should be planned to allow workflow whereby food is processed from point of delivery to the point of sale, or service. The various processes should be separated as far as possible. So separate the processes. You must separate the processes. So separate veg prep from butchery, etc. Where possible. This is where possible. And as far as possible. And food intended for sale must not cross paths with waste food or refuge because of cross-contamination. A design that reduces wasteful journeys is both efficient and cost-effective. I've been in a kitchen where a chef is preparing salads, but to get an extra lettuce, he's had to go 2 floors down. Or he or she has had to go across the other side of the kitchen when he wants more, or he or she wants more ingredients. You've got to keep everything contained. For ease of movement is very important. So this is the operational process. The overall sequence of receiving, storing, preparing, holding, serving, and clearing is achieved by minimum movement, minimum backtracking, maximum use of space, maximum use of equipment with minimum expenditure of time and effort. So remember these key words of the operational process: minimum movement in the kitchen, minimal backtracking, maximum use of space, maximum use of equipment, and minimum expenditure of time and effort. And there you see on the screen, there is on your PowerPoint a design of a kitchen and the workflow. And this is taken from Theory of Catering and Hospitality. And the latest review of the book says that this chapter is absolutely spot on. So it's regarded as an authority on kitchen design. And again, another one on workflow, all in the same direction: the vegetable store, the food prep, the cooking, the roasting, etc. All continuous workflow. Now, what we're going to come back to time and time again is this. The size and style of the menu and the ability of staff will depend on the number of sections, the layout that is necessary. A straight line layout will be suitable for a snack bar, while an island layout may be more suitable for a hotel kitchen. The cooking section should contain no through traffic lanes used by other staff. So the workspace, the size of the kitchen is also determined by purpose and function. Another question: can you please explain the concept of kitchen mileage in the context of kitchen? Yeah, the mileage is people shouldn't have long walks around the kitchen to go to the fridge, to go to the stores. Everything's got to be contained within an area. So there shouldn't be lots of walking around in the kitchen. Yeah, this is ergonomic, so it's easily to manage. And we have seen in recent years an improvement in kitchens where people haven't got to walk all the way around the kitchen to get to a salamander, to get to a fridge. It's all much more contained. So that's why we've got to get the workflow in systematic and less walking around in the kitchen, more contained. So it's all determined by purpose and function. And it's all based on the menu. As I keep saying, it's all based on the menu. And the markets to serve. The management policy on buying raw materials will determine kitchen plans and handling raw materials. So, for example, you may say, I'm not going to employ a pastry chef. I'm going to buy everything in, and I'm going to get a kitchen assistant to finish the pastries or the sweets. Yeah, very straightforward. You may say, I'm not going to have any vegetables being prepared on site. I'm going to buy them all in prepared. And that will affect the kitchen design, the space, and the mileage in the kitchen. But you've got to have adequate workspace for each process. One kitchen I go into, and I've told the chief executive, you must change this kitchen. The pastry chef is working out the still room, teas and coffees. Has no area at all. and he has to walk. It's a he has to walk the other end of the kitchen to get to the fridge and the freezer. Totally unacceptable and totally inefficient. So what do we need per person? Well, work on approximately 4.2 square meters required per person. Too little space can cause staff to work in close proximity to ranges, ovens, steamers, cutting blades, mixers, and so on, thus causing accidents. A space of 1.37 meters from equipment is desirable, and aisles must be of adequate size to enable staff to move safely. Very important. I'm getting lots of messages, Sanjay, at the moment from people because it's Brian Turner, the executive chef's birthday, and everyone's wishing him a happy birthday. So I'll wish him a happy birthday on all of your behalves after this lecture. Right. Logistics. The working area must be suitably lit and ventilated with extractive fans to remove heat, fumes, and smells. You must go into a kitchen. And today, kitchens, people say, oh, kitchens are hot, smelly places. With good design today, they are not hot, smelly places. You can actually remove most of the heat from a kitchen with good ventilation system. When I worked in central London many, many years ago, the kitchen was so hot in the summer, you could wring your jacket out. Today, it's cool. The kitchen's been refurbished, been beautifully designed, and it's very cool. Worktops should be adequate in size for preparation processes necessary. Important to have good worktops, and should be designed so the food handler has all the equipment required and utensils to hand. Very good question I've got here. What are the factors to be kept in mind when planning the services like drainage, supply, while the facilities are being constructed? Now, this is what actually constrains you. When you go into a kitchen, and you have to say where, the first question you ask when you design a kitchen, so you've got the menu, you've got the consumer product relationship, you've got the menu, you know what equipment, the next question you have to ask yourself, where is the services? Where is the gas? Where is the electricity? Where is the drainage? And you have to work around those. You have to work around those equipment, those services, rather. Because often you can't change them. And you have to say, what is the electricity load? Because I know that some chefs have wanted induction in their kitchen, but unfortunately, there isn't the electricity load going into the building to allow induction. So you've got to revert back to gas. And those are serious questions you have to ask. And that's a very good question. You have to work around the services. Allow sufficient space for access to equipment, such as ovens. Opening doors creates an arc that cannot be reduced, and the operator must have sufficient room for comfortable and safe access. It is also likely that trolleys will be used for loading and uploading ovens or rolling tables drawn into position in front of the oven. So you've got to work the equipment, and it's important trolleys. Now, I went into one where there was a whole bank of banqueting trolleys, heated trolleys, that were supposed to go to the other side of the building. They spent £60,000 on these trolleys. The previous chef spent £60,000 on these trolleys. And I said, what are they doing there? He said, the last chef spent the money, but didn't realize they were too wide to actually go through the corridor doors. So you had heated trolleys that couldn't go through the corridor doors. So they wasted £60,000. Common sense? I ask you the question, is it not common sense? Yes, but common sense is not common practice. Big problem today on the news, nothing to do with kitchen design. The government ordered 400,000 surgical gowns from Turkey because of the pandemic crisis. They sent a special Royal Air Force plane to pick them up. 400,000 gowns. When they arrived in the country, they realized that these gowns were the wrong specification and could not be used. No one thought to check. They just ordered them. No one thought to check, do these match the health requirement specification? No, they don't. They can't use them. They can't use 400,000 surgical gowns. Common sense, not common practice. Now, chefs, I know, and hotel may have a lot of common sense, but many people don't. Many people do not have common sense to check the obvious, the basics. So, the various preparation processes required different areas depend on what food is involved. In a vegetable preparation area, water from the sinks and dirt from the vegetables will accumulate, and therefore adequate drainage should be provided. Pastry preparation, on the other hand, entails many dry processes. Does the ergonomic design of the kitchen add to general upkeep and cleanliness of the equipment? Yes. The ergonomic design is very important. You've got to be comfortable with the design because it's got to be cleaned. And it's got to be easily cleaned. Equipment has to be easily cleaned. People won't clean equipment if it takes a lot of dismantling and putting back together again. So the answer is yes. That is a very, very good question. And yes, the answer is definitely yes. So, work areas. Kitchens can be divided into sections based on process. For example, dry areas for storage, wet areas for fish preparation, vegetable preparation, butchery for cold preparation, hot, wet areas for boiling, poaching, steaming. Equipment will include steamers, brat pans, steam jacketed boilers, combination oven. Hot, dry areas for frying, roasting, grilling equipment will include fryers, salamanders, induction cookers, brat pans, halogen cookers, roasting ovens, microwave, charcoal grills, cook and hold ovens. Dirty areas for refuge, pot wash, plate wash equipment will include compactors, dishwashers, refuge storage units, glass washers, and pot washing machines. Now, what I also find when I go into kitchens, particularly in busy periods of the kitchen, when the restaurant's busy, when banqueting is busy, there is insufficient washing up facilities. The glass washing area, the dishwashing area isn't sufficient for the volume that is needed. And that is often a big mistake that people make. Now, Because raw materials enter the cooking section from the main preparation area, vegetables, meat and fish, dry goods, this section we designed with a view continuing the workflow, the flow movement through the servery. To this end, roasting ovens, for example, are best sited close to the meat preparation area and steamers adjacent to the vegetable preparation area. So meat roasting next to the meat preparation area and vegetable next to the vegetable preparation area for steamers. Common sense? Yes. Do you often see it? No, not practice. Now, when we design a kitchen, we have what's known as the systems approach. The kitchen operation must work as a system. It is advisable to site items of equipment used for specific functions together. This will help increase efficiency and avoid shortcuts. So I'll just repeat that. It's advisable to site items of equipment used for specific functions together. This will help increase efficiency and avoid shortcuts. So that may mean you put all your roasting ovens together, all your steamers together. Yeah. Or you have put all your you put your fryers next to your roasting ovens. And your your steamers and boilers, they go next to one another. And coming back again, I'm going to talk about always cleaning and hygiene. To allow cleaning of wall and floor surfaces, station equipment must be positioned. Now, this is important because you've got to be able to get to all corners of the kitchen, because one of the things is pest control, mice, rats, cockroaches, etc. So you've got to have thorough cleaning. To allow for cleaning of wall and floor surfaces, station equipment must be positioned 500mm from the wall, allowing 250mm clearance between the floor and underside of the equipment. Not only should equipment be suitably situated, but the working weight is very important to enable equipment to be used without excess fatigue. So in other words, it's better if you've got equipment on wheels, because if you've got to pull it out, you don't want to exert people, and that's very important. And then we have the service policy. And today we know much emphasis on plate service. Do we have a mixture of plate and silver service or self-service? Will affect the volume and type of dishwashing required. I guess silver service today is almost dead in the water, silver service. But self-service, yes, buffets. But after the pandemic, without a vaccine, I guess that people got to rethink about buffet service. Other elements done. A satellite kitchen is a service kitchen. It's away from the main kitchen. That's what we mean by a satellite kitchen. If satellite kitchens are served, it is desirable to have two loading bays, one for receiving and one for delivery. They should be adjacent to the relevant store to facilitate loading. The receiving bay should be adjacent to the prime goods store for purchased meat, vegetables, and so on, and delivery bay near to the finished goods stores that contain items ready to go out to their end units. So this is other elements of design. How important is good exhaust and air circulation system in the kitchen design? Vitally. It is vitally important to have good ventilation system to make working conditions very comfortable for your chefs, your people working in the kitchen. They must feel comfortable. And today, there is no excuse. When you design a kitchen, you can bring in the best possible ventilation systems. Having said that, it is the most expensive cost of designing a kitchen. Now, receiving areas, where you receive, a good receiving area needs to be designed for easy receipt of supplies. Typical temperature zones. If you're chilling food, then you've got to have you're talking about 5 to 8 degrees when you're chilling food, and the area itself must feel quite chilly, even if you're working in it. And in a comfortable condition, you're talking probably around 15 to 20 degrees in the kitchen. Warm, but not excessive heat. And temperatures, you must monitor the temperature of each area of the kitchen. There should be a kitchen thermometer up on the wall to monitor the temperature of the kitchen. So a good receiving area needs to be designed for easy receipt of supplies, with nearby storage facilities suitably sized for the distribution of foods to preparation and production areas. So planning the layout of a cooking area, for example. Island groupings. In an island arrangement, equipment is placed back to back in the center of the cooking area. There will be a need to be sufficient space to allow this, including adequate gangways around the equipment and space to place other items along the walls. Without careful thought, an island arrangement may result in the chef walking to the other side of the island, which is not practical. So it's got to be thought out very carefully, the island. Layout of the kitchen, the wall sighting. An alternative arrangement involves sighting equipment along walls. This arrangement is possible where travel distances are reduced and normally occurs in smaller premises. So large hotel kitchens would have island ranges. Small restaurants have wall sighting along the wall. And then we've got the L or U-shaped layouts. These arrangements create self-contained sections that discourage entry by non-authorized staff. They can promote efficient working with distances reduced between work centers. Now the kitchen environment, the temperature, the space. Now we have the Office and Shop Railway Premises Act of 1963 that stipulates 11.32 cubic meters, 400 cubic feet per person, discounting height in excess of 3 meters. Humidity, a humid atmosphere creates side effects and creates uncomfortable conditions. Side effects such as food deterioration, infestation of risk, consideration on walls and slippery floors, condensation on floors and walls. Anything higher than 60% humidity lowers productivity. Provision for replacement of extracted air with fresh air is essential. So ventilation is essential. Coming back to the question, temperature and humidity control. Higher than 60% humidity lowers productivity. People get exhausted. So you've got to control not just the temperature in modern kitchens, but the humidity is absolutely crucial, because you don't want slippery floors and walls. Now, as I said, we're talking about 19, 20 degrees. It's considered that temperature no higher than 20 to 26 degrees centigrade is desirable for maximum working efficiency. Remember that. Round about, I'd like to go a bit lower than 20, but 20 to 26 degrees centigrade is desirable for maximum working efficiency and comfort. With 16 to 18 centigrade in preparation areas. Noise conversation should be possible within 4 meters. Light, the minimum legal preparation is 20 lumens per square foot, with up to 38 lumens preferable in all areas. So well lit. Kitchens also have to be temperature, humidity control, and well lit. And it's absolutely crucial that these things are essential. So what we've got to remember, that when designing a kitchen, we are looking at, first of all, where I started is the product relationship. Who are our customers? What market are we in? What do they want? The menu. And we look at that in great depth. And then you design the kitchen based on the menu. Based on the menu, because what you want and what you seriously want to know is what kind of food do they want, but also what is the policy of buying food in, pre-prepared food. You may want to buy in all prepared veg, pastry, to cut down the workload and space in the kitchen, but you will need space for storage. Important question, what is the importance of color coding of equipment? Vitally important. Absolutely vitally important, that because of food hygiene, and particularly there's going to be a lot more emphasis on hygiene and sanitization after the pandemic, our customers, our guests will demand it. So each section of the kitchen should be color coded. If you're doing butchery, it's red, vegetable green, etc. All the equipment that you use in that area should be color coded. And in large scale production, someone in the veg section would not be allowed to go into the cooking area, and certainly someone who's working in butchery would have a color coded jacket, and they are not allowed to cross into the cooking section, and particularly the blast chilling section. The blast chilling section, where the temperatures have to be around 5 to 8 degrees. It's quite chilly working in a blast chilling section, and the 20 degrees C is unacceptable in a cold area where you are blast chilling. So remember, you've got them on the PowerPoint. Remember those temperatures. And yes, I've always been for color coded. Remember, the idea of a butcher's apron is color coded. He's wearing or she's wearing a butcher's apron. It's blue with the stripes. It's color coded. The old idea of butcher's aprons were for color coding. They were for color coding. But now the trendy chefs want to use them as in the preparation areas and the cooking areas. Unacceptable. Post-COVID, what factors will help us improve in our standards? I think post-COVID, and this is interesting, because I've been saying to a lot of chefs here, that when I was in Hong Kong many years ago, and even now, the school in Hong Kong where Andreas Muller comes, and he comes to the Young Chef Olympiad, his school, all the chefs in the kitchen, the trainees, wear masks. In the restaurants in Hong Kong, the theatre kitchen, you can see the kitchen, they wear masks. Post-COVID, I think we're going to see a lot more chefs working with masks, a lot more sanitization of restaurants and kitchens. Hygiene is going to be a very important factor. I think also that the World Health Organization has got to look at live markets very carefully. Because if this pandemic came from a live market, if you sanitize, you can avoid a lot of cross-contamination. I'm not an expert in this field, but sanitizing is absolutely crucial. And we have to learn from this pandemic. And what I've been impressed with at the Young Chef Olympiad is that a lot of the students competing do know how to sanitize. They do use sanitizer. But I think there's a lot more got to be used, a lot more hand washing than ever before. And restaurants will have to offer hand sanitizer as you walk into the restaurant. And this is going to be an absolute crucial factor. So, any more questions? It's coming up to time now. Any more questions? Sanjay, any more questions? We've finished kitchen design. We'll go on to another subject next week. I'll tell you what the subject is next week. I hope it's useful. And these are the basic principles of kitchen design. Remember these because it's fairly simple, fairly straightforward, a lot of common sense, but not common practice. And so many mistakes are made. I remember a hospital in Wales built a brand new hospital. They built the kitchen underneath the pathology lab, shared the same drains, major mistake for cross-contamination, and not long after it was opened, they had to move the kitchen. So a sheer waste of money. Remember, common sense, not common practice. And we see so many mistakes made in kitchens. And equipment, people buying equipment they're never going to use. We have vanity kitchens. People want the Rolls Royce, the best kit, but they don't need it. You need the equipment to service the menu, to service the productivity, to make the kitchen comfortable, a good place to work for your staff, that they feel comfortable. And ask them, do you feel comfortable? And we can really create very good working conditions for chefs today. So, do you think, one question, do you think that certain types of animals will be regulated after pandemics? Yeah, I do think so. I think that, you can domesticate animals for food. You can shoot wild animals for food. Of course, wild animals for food, there's always a greater bacterial risk, salmonella risk. But I do feel that this is where the World Health Authority have gone wrong in not trying to get governments to regulate these markets. Yeah, I think after this pandemic, there's going to be a world inquiry into health, hygiene, and what we eat, basically. You see, the Chinese eat anything. Yeah, I've seen Chinese people, no disrespect, but argue over a fish head at a table. They eat the fish head and take the eyes out, eat the eyes, and in some parts of the world that is totally unacceptable. So I think there may well be. I think that was a very good question. That's not the question that you've just asked, Sanjay, is one that's been asked in this country now. People are asking this very question. People are saying to me, Why isn't the World Health Authority looking at this very issue of live markets? So yeah, I agree. But great set of questions. I hope it's helpful. No easy answer to anything, but all you've got to remember is that the future is bright. The future's IIHM, incredible India, and there is a magic in the very name of India. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week. Thank you. Thank you all. Bye now. Bye-bye.